I want you to think about the last thing you ate before you watch this video. No judgment, just think about it. Because there is one category of food that, more than anything else, I see in my clinical practice is quietly working against your GLP-1 medication every single day without most people even realizing it. It's not sugar, it's not fast food, it's not even alcohol. The number one food to avoid on Ozempic or GLP-1 medications is ultra processed food. And before you say, yeah, I know processed food is bad, I have heard this. Hear me out. Because this is not the usual processed food is bad lecture. What I am going to talk about today is why ultra processed food is specifically, uniquely, and almost devastatingly problematic when you are on GLP-1 medication like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, or Wegovy. Ultra processed food doesn't just slow your progress, it can reverse it. It can make your side effects dramatically worse, and it actively fights the medication at a biological level inside your brain in a way that is genuinely fascinating and interesting. Hi, I'm Dr. Bazgha Khalid, and I'm a board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine specialist. Today, as a weight loss specialist, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening when you eat ultra processed food on Ozempic and other GLP-1 medications and what to do instead. So, what is ultra processed food? First things first, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing because processed food gets thrown around so loosely that it's almost lost its meaning. Technically, everything that we eat has been processed in some way. Cooking is processing, freezing is processing, cutting and packaging food is processing. But ultra processed food is different, and there's actually a scientific classification system for this. It is called the NOVA classification, developed by researchers in Brazil and now used by public health scientists worldwide. Here's how to think about ultra processed food. Ultra processed foods are industrially manufactured foods made mostly from refined ingredients and additives rather than whole foods and are engineered to be palatable and as addictive as possible. Common ingredients of ultra processed foods include high fructose corn syrup, refined starches, hydrogenated oils, artificial flavors, colors, emulsifiers, sweeteners, and preservatives. I'm talking about things like chips, crackers, packaged cookies and cakes, most breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, processed meats like hot dogs, instant noodles, fizzy drinks, most fast foods, flavored crisps, protein bars with 30 ingredients on the label. Pretty much anything that comes in a crinkly bag with a list of ingredients that sounds like a chemistry lesson. Now, here are the stats that surprise most people. In the United States, ultra processed foods make up about 58 to 60% of the average adult's daily calorie intake. In the UK, it's around 56 to 57%, Canada 43 to 50%, Australia 42 to 45%. Overall, ultra processed foods typically provide 40 to 60% of calories in many Western countries. In other words, more than half of everything most people eat every day is ultra processed food. So, when I say ultra processed food is the number one food to avoid on Ozempic, I'm also saying this might be the single biggest shift you can make. And I know that's not easy. But stay with me because understanding why it matters is what actually makes changing it possible. Let's understand why ultra processed food is especially bad on Ozempic. Ultra processed food isn't just bad for you in general, it interacts specifically with the way GLP-1 medications work. And it undermines GLP-1 medications at multiple levels simultaneously. Let me walk you through them. Problem number one is ultra processed food bypasses the satiety signal. The whole point of Ozempic and other GLP-1 medications is to make you feel full sooner and stay full longer. That's the mechanism of action of these medications. That's the magic. But here's the thing about ultra processed food. It is specifically designed by very smart food scientists and labs with billions of dollars of research to override your satiety signals. The crunch, the salt and fat combination, the texture, the mouthfeel, the engineered flavor that hits every pleasure receptor and then fades just fast enough to make you want another one. This is called hyperpalatability. And it is deliberate engineering feature, not a coincidence. Hyperpalatable food is specifically formulated to be eaten past fullness. Even people without a weight problem very easily overeat ultra-processed foods because the signal that says stop, you have had enough, gets completely drowned out by the pleasure signal saying more. Now imagine you are on Ozempic, a medication whose entire job is to generate that I'm full, stop eating signal. And you're eating food literally engineered to override that exact signal. You're paying, in some cases, hundreds of dollars a month for a medication, and then eating food specifically designed to cancel out what you're paying for. That's the first problem. Problem number two is ultra processed food spikes blood sugar and drives insulin chaos. Most ultra processed foods are high in refined carbohydrates and added sugar. They digest incredibly fast. Almost no fiber, very little protein to slow things down. So when you eat ultra processed food, your blood sugar rockets up fast, like a spike, not a gentle rise. Your pancreas sees that spike and pumps out insulin to deal with it, a big insulin dump. And when what goes up fast comes down fast, your blood sugar crashes, and that crash, it doesn't just leave you feeling tired and foggy, it triggers hunger. Specifically, it triggers cravings for more carbohydrates because your brain is now in mild hypoglycemic or low blood sugar panic mode, and it wants quick fuel fast. GLP-1 medications improve blood sugar regulation, but when you are bombarding your system with ultra-processed food, you're creating spikes and crashes that even the medication struggles to fully smooth out. And those crashes drive hunger in a way that competes directly with the appetite suppression you're trying to create. You end up in this tug of war, medication pulling one way, food pulling the other. Problem number three is ultra processed foods make your side effects dramatically worse. This one comes straight from my clinic. The patients who complain most about nausea, vomiting, acid reflux, and stomach pain on GLP-1 medications, when I look at what they're eating, ultra-processed food is almost always a significant part of the picture. Here's why. GLP-1 medications slow gastric emptying. They slow down how fast your stomach empties into your small intestine. Ultra-processed food is often high in fat, which also slows gastric emptying, and high in salt, which can increase acid reflux, and low in fiber, which further slows digestion. So you've got a stomach that's already moving slowly because of the medication. Now you're filling it with food that moves slowly anyway, and your stomach is sitting there full and sluggish for hours. The result? Nausea, vomiting, acid reflux, discomfort, that horrible feeling of food sitting just there. Ultra processed food and GLP-1 medications are physiologically incompatible, not metaphorically, literally biologically incompatible. Let's talk about the brain science, the dopamine hijack. What ultra processed food does to your brain is something I think everyone needs to understand, and it starts with dopamine. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical. When something feels good, whether it's a hug, a win, a compliment, or a delicious meal, dopamine gets released, and your brain files it under do it again. Ultra processed food is one of the most powerful dopamine triggers we know of, outside of actual addictive drugs. And this is not an exaggeration. Studies using brain imaging like MRIs show that eating highly palatable ultra-processed foods activates the same reward centers in the brain as cocaine and other substances of abuse. The same areas, the same neurochemistry. That's why you can eat a whole bag of chips or crisps and feel vaguely terrible about it and still go back for more. That's dopamine. Now, here's something remarkable that researchers have discovered about GLP-1 medications. GLP-1 medications don't just work on hunger and fullness. They also work directly on the brain's reward system. GLP-1 receptors exist in the brain's main reward and pleasure center. And when GLP-1 medications activate those receptors, they appear to reduce the dopamine response to food rewards. The result, the medication dials down how much pleasure your brain gets from eating, especially eating hyper-palatable food. This is why so many people on Ozempic and Wegovy say things like, I walked past the biscuit tin and just didn't care. Or I used to think about food all the time and now I don't. That's the GLP-1 receptor effect on reward system. It's called food noise reduction, and it's one of the most exciting things about these medications. But here's the catch. Ultra-processed foods generate such a powerful dopamine response that it can override or at least seriously compete with the medication's dampening effect on the reward system. For some people, especially in early treatment, or at lower doses of these medications, the pull of a hyper-palatable food is still strong enough to win. Even with the medication on board, and what makes it even more complex is this. When you eat ultra-processed foods regularly, your dopamine receptors actually downregulate. They get less sensitive. So you need more of the stimulus, more food, more flavor, more quantity to get the same hit. That means the longer you eat ultra-processed food on your GLP-1 medications, the harder it becomes for the medication to do the brain rewiring it's supposed to do. So you're essentially competing against your own medication for control of your brain's reward system. Quick question for you. Did you notice your food cravings, especially for ultra-processed foods, to go down on GLP-1 medications? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about what people get wrong about ultra-processed foods, because there are few common misconceptions that I want to address before I get to the solutions. Misconception number one is I eat less of it now, so it doesn't matter as much. I hear this one constantly, and I completely understand the logic. Before Ozempic, I'd eat a whole bag of chips. Now I eat a handful. Surely that's fine. Not quite. Here's the problem. It's not just about the quantity. It's about what the food does to your blood sugar, your insulin, your dopamine system, and your gut, even in small amounts. A small amount of ultra-processed food still causes a blood sugar spike, still activates the reward system, still sits heavily in a stomach that's already moving slowly on the medication. So less is better, but less of the wrong thing is not the same as the right thing. Misconception number two is healthy labeled processed food is fine. Oh, this one is a minefield, and the food industry knows it. Low fat, high protein, no added sugar, natural ingredients, gut friendly. These labels are marketing. They tell you almost nothing about whether a food is ultra processed. A low-fat flavored yogurt with 15 ingredients, including multiple thickeners, sweeteners, and flavor enhancers, still a ultra-processed food. A high-protein bar with 28 ingredients, including 6 different types of sugar alcohol, still ultra-processed food. The real test is not the marketing banner on the front. It's the ingredient list on the back. If you cannot picture what most of the ingredients look like in their natural form, it's probably ultra-processed food. Misconception number three is I need processed food because I can barely eat anything. At least it's calories. This one I take seriously because it comes from a real place. When you are on a GLP-1 medication, your appetite is suppressed, sometimes significant appetite suppression. And when you can only manage small amounts of food, reaching for something easy and calorie dense feels logical. But here's why this backfires. When your window for eating is already small, every calorie you put in has to work harder for you. You need nutrients, protein, fiber, not empty engineered calories that drive more nausea and more insulin chaos and give you almost nothing in return. In a small eating window, food quality matters more than ever, not less. Misconception number 4 is I'll fix my diet once I have lost the weight. Please don't do this because here's the reality. If you lose weight on a GLP-1 medication without changing the food environment, without shifting away from ultra processed food, you are setting yourself up for one of the two outcomes. Either the medication has to keep working indefinitely just to maintain your results, or when you stop, and many people do eventually come off these medications, the weight comes right back. Because the underlying dietary pattern that drove the weight gain is still there. The medication is just the window. What you eat while that window is open is what determines the long term outcome. Let me give you a few bits of clinical evidence that will really tell us why this matters. First, the STEP trials. These are the landmark phase 3 clinical trials for semaglutide that form the basis of Wegovy's approval. In those trials, participants who combined the medication with dietary guidance, structured support around what they ate, not just how much, lost significantly more weight than those on medication alone. Dietary quality matters alongside the medication. Second, a major study published in the British Medical Journal in 2019 followed over 100,000 people for 5 years and found that a 10% increase in ultra processed food consumption was associated with a 12% increase in cancer risk, a significant increase in cardiovascular disease, and all cause mortality. This was across the board, not just people with weight issues. Third, and this is the one that really made waves recently, a 2023 study found that ultra processed food consumption was strongly associated with what's called food addiction, a pattern of compulsive eating behavior driven by the same brain pathways as substance addiction. Let's get practical because I don't just want to tell you what to avoid, I want to give you a real, usable framework for what to eat instead. I want to make this simple because complicated food rules are one of the main reasons people fail. The 3-word rule: real, whole, recognizable. Every food decision should run through these 3 questions. Number 1, is it real? Did it come from nature in something close to this form? Number 2, is it whole or has it most of its nutritional value been stripped out? Number 3, is it recognizable? Could you look at it and describe what it started as? Like an egg, real, whole, recognizable. A chicken breast, real, whole, recognizable. A bag of baked cheese flavored crackers made with 22 ingredients, not particularly real, not whole, and not recognizable. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Given that your appetite is smaller on the GLP-1 medications, every meal has to work harder. So here's what I tell my patients to prioritize. Protein first. At every meal, every snack: chicken, eggs, fish, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, legumes, tofu. Protein preserves muscle, keeps you full for longer, and has the highest thermic effect, meaning your body actually burns more calories digesting protein. Number 2 is non-starchy vegetables. As much variety as possible. These give you fiber, micronutrients, and volume without spiking blood sugar. Fill half of your plate with them when you can manage it. Number 3 is healthy fats. Avocado, olive oil, nuts, oily fish. These support satiety, support your brain, and are anti-inflammatory. They digest slowly, which on a GLP-1 medication means you don't want huge amounts, but you definitely want some. Number 4 is whole food carbohydrates when you want them, like sweet potatoes, oats, brown rice, legumes, fruit. These come with fiber that slows the glucose response. They're not the enemy. The refined, stripped version is the enemy. Let's talk about a practical swap guide, not deprivation, substitution. I know change feels hard. So let's make it easier. Instead of a bag of chips or crisps, try a small handful of nuts with a piece of fruit. You get crunch, fat, and little sweetness, and it's real food. Instead of a flavored yogurt, try plain Greek yogurt with a drizzle of honey and some berries. Less sugar, way more protein, and no additives. Instead of a processed protein bar, try 2 hard-boiled eggs or cottage cheese with cucumber. This is actual protein from actual food. And instead of instant noodles, try rice noodles with leftover chicken, some soy sauce, and vegetables. Almost as fast, but completely different nutritional outcome. None of these swaps are complicated. None of them require cooking skills. All it needs is mindfulness. The goal isn't to make food your new full time job, it's to make better choices become the path of least resistance. Think about the 80-20 approach. This means give yourself room. This means that you do not have to eat perfectly all the time, forever. Never have a biscuit or never eat chips. Never enjoy a takeaway. That approach fails every time because it's not sustainable and it breeds resentment towards food, towards yourself, and eventually towards your weight loss goals. What I'm saying is aim for 80% of your diet to be real, whole, recognizable food. The other 20%, live your life. Allow some flexibility. When the foundation is strong, the exceptions don't derail you. They are just exceptions. Okay, real talk for a second. What's the one ultra processed food that you honestly find hardest to give up? The one that even on Ozempic still calls your name a little. Let me know in the comments. Seriously, because let me tell you, you are not alone. And knowing that might actually make it easier. And if you have already made some shifts from ultra processed food since starting your GLP-1 medications, share that too. Because that's the kind of information that inspires other people who are just getting started. We live in a time where ultra processed food is everywhere. It's cheap, convenient, engineered to be irresistible, and aggressively marketed. It fills the entire aisles of every supermarket. It's in every gas station, vending machine, and airport lounge. And for decades, people have been told that obesity is a willpower problem, that if you just had more discipline, more self control, you would eat less of it. But we now know that it's not the full story. Ultra processed foods hijack the reward system in a way that overrides willpower. It's not designed to nourish you, it's designed to be eaten past the point of fullness. Ultra processed foods create a biological drive to keep eating that is incredibly hard to resist. Not because you're weak, but because the engineering is that good. GLP-1 medications are one of the first tools we have had that actually work at the level of the brain to reset some of that drive. That's genuinely exciting. That's genuinely medicine. But GLP-1 medications work best. They work far, far better when they're working with your food choices, not fighting against them. The GLP-1 medications give you the quietest your brain has ever been around food. Use that quiet because it's a window, and what you build during that window is what lasts. That's what I want for you. Not just weight loss, a different relationship with food, a sustainable one. So here is your action plan. 1. Use the real, whole, recognizable test for every food decision you make. 2. Lead with protein at every meal. 3. Don't rely on front on the back labels. Read the ingredient list. 4. Think substitution, not deprivation. Small swaps, sustainable changes. 5. Aim for 80-20, not perfection, just progress. If this video gave you something useful, please hit like. It helps more people find this content who genuinely need it. Subscribe for more evidence-based videos on weight loss and metabolic health. Stay happy, healthy, and well. Bye for now.